Coffee is the fuel that keeps the world running. Every single day, people drink over 2.2 billion cups of coffee, and the numbers are only going up. Right here in the United States, 66% of Americans drink it every single day, which is 14% more than just a few years ago. But is it actually really a good thing? What's actually happening inside your body every time you take a sip? And if you're drinking coffee every day, is it doing more harm than good? These are the questions we're going to answer. We're about to find out. So stay tuned to the end, because I'm also going to give you a little known secret about the best time to drink your coffee. Interesting getting into the research and what it does physiologically. The timing of your coffee matters greatly. Also not impact other areas of your body and get that biggest energy boost that you can get. So the first sip of coffee, right? I can smell it. That's one of my favorite smells. Just the bags, squeeze the bag of coffee. And then that first sip, your body reacts almost instantaneously. Now, here's what actually goes on in the first 15 minutes. Caffeine hits the bloodstream. That takes about 10 minutes. Then you start to feel it kick in. Some say they feel it right away, like, oh, got my sip, I'm good to go. That's just actually the placebo of the taste, because your brain knows what's coming. Now, your body temperature begins to rise at that point. Heart rate picks up a little bit. Breathing deepens. Your system is gearing up. Then the third step is fatigue starts to get blocked. Coffee's not actually giving you energy. Coffee doesn't add energy to your body. It stops you from feeling tired. This is super interesting. Within the first 15 minutes, caffeine starts to block what's known as adenosine. It's the chemical in your brain that can build up, gets released all day long, and it makes you sleepy. Well, coffee blocks that. So if you have less adenosine, there is more alertness. That's how coffee works. Fourth thing it does within a very quick time is there's an adrenaline surge. It blocks adenosine, and that sets off a chain reaction. Adrenaline floods into the brain, makes you sharper, faster, more responsive. Daily coffee drinkers, in fact, 32% more adrenaline on those caffeine days, 32% more. Dopamine gets a boost, number 5. That happy, motivated feeling that you get often throughout your life, hopefully a lot more, hanging out with Dr. Living Good. You can thank dopamine for that. Levels spike 15 to 20% when you have your first cup of coffee. Improves mood, focus, and even helps fight depression if you're kind of in a slump. Makes you motivated for cognitive tasks, studying, problem solving, deep work. Number 6, there's a stomach kickstart. Coffee revs up the acid production by 30 to 50%. Now, this is important because lots of us lack acid. Now, it might feel like acid in there, but it's because your stomach is struggling because we've eaten so many processed foods that this can actually help to empty the stomach. It triggers what's called a gastrocolic reflex, aka the urgent trip to the bathroom, but it can help with that regularity. And there is actually forms of coffee that are low acid coffees that can help you from getting kind of the little just uncomfortableness and sourness in the stomach. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. At 30 to 60 minutes, that window, coffee's at its peak. This is when the caffeine is fully into the system. Typically for most, it peaks right around that 45-minute mark. And here's what's happening at that point. At peak performance, there is a boost. Now, athletes time the caffeine. You could do this if you want a little extra for your workout. They time this intake window. And the reason they do it is because studies show that strength, endurance, and reaction time all improve. So timing that about 60 minutes before your workout gives you that peak performance right in the middle of it. Brain power gets unlocked at this 1 hour mark. Mental sharpness reaches its peak height. Brain scans show that there's decreased activity in the default mode network. That's the part of your brain responsible for daydreaming and self-reflection. Like, you can stay pretty focused at that point. Increased activity happens in the part of your brain associated with processing visual information, your working memory, your decision-making. So, important decisions, important meetings, important tasks. This is the time to plan it. Your reaction time improves up to 12%. This is why athletes also take advantage of having a cup of coffee 60 minutes before a workout. Number 3, some of the other physical changes that happen when we get to that peak mode after consuming a cup of coffee. Pupils dilate, better vision, especially in lower light. Your blood pressure will go up a little bit. This causes the heart rate to actually drop a bit at this point. It rises at first, and then the heart rate drops 4 to 7 beats per minute in order to compensate on the increased blood pressure. Heart rate goes down, doesn't have to work as hard. Fat breakdown begins. More fat cells are released into the blood for energy at this 1 hour peak. Blood sugar spikes. There's a temporary dip in insulin sensitivity. And so it starts clearing all that out of the blood, working for you and working for your metabolism. The kidneys work over time at this point. Urine production goes up 1.8 times more. Hence, there's more frequent bathroom trips. It is a source of water. There is some studies suggesting that, you know what, this kind of does count for water content, but I do like to rehydrate after the cups of coffee throughout the rest of the day. Now, at 2 to 5 hours, we've now entered the come down. So there's the first 10 to 15 minutes. We're peaking at an hour in, and then we start to fade, and it's going to depend on the body. The caffeine buzz fades around at the 2 hour mark, 3 hour mark, and then what happens next? It's all about how your body clears it and how fast it will do it. There are two types of people. Fast metabolizers. This is 40% of the population. Your liver can clear half the caffeine from your system in a couple of hours. There are slow metabolizers. They take 4 times as long, up to 8 hours, to clear half the caffeine out of the body. That's why some people can drink coffee before bed and sleep just fine, while other people would toss and turn. It's a genetic thing. You don't get to pick. Which one are you? Fast metabolizer? Put fast in the comment. Or slow metabolizer? I'm a little bit in the middle, but I'm more towards the slow. And how I know this, if I have caffeine at 6 o'clock at night, I'm in trouble. I'm not as sensitive as my dad was, where he couldn't even have it after noon. But I've got my best friend. He'll be drinking coffee at dinner at 9 o'clock. God bless him. Can't do it. So what happens when the caffeine wears off? Blood pressure stabilizes at that point. Blood sugar returns to normal. The adenosine receptors, remember those in the brain that caffeine was blocking? Those wake back up. Now here's the catch. Your body never stopped making adenosine. That's the chemical that makes you a little bit more sleepy. So if you didn't time your caffeine intake right, your brain gets slammed with all the leftover adenosine, and that can lead to a major crash. Now, if you want to avoid the caffeine crash, I'll show you how to time your caffeine perfectly and focus specifically on quality. Those two things can prevent that from happening. Now, the long-term effects. We know that what happens to your body immediately within a 5-hour window of drinking caffeine, but what happens if you drink it every single day over time? What are the cumulative effects? Is it healthy to keep putting your body through that cycle that I just described day after day? And believe it or not, coffee's not just good for you. It could literally save your life. The research is overwhelming. I have a list of studies in front of me. One of the top reasons is because it is high in chlorogenic acid. In fact, it is touted as the top source of chlorogenic acid of any other food. That is a natural polyphenol, which means it's a very powerful antioxidant. And if you care about protecting the health of your arteries, antioxidants are your friends. Plaquing, calcification, damage, and inflammation to the inside of the arteries, it's these polyphenols that prevent that from happening. And the number one food source, especially for Americans, of antioxidants is their coffee, meaning we don't eat enough of them in the rest of our food because it's very processed. It's eating out, it's fast foods, it's coming out of a package. Now, some of you are doing better and better since following me. However, our number one source still remains as a country as coffee. So we better make sure that that cup is as powerful as we can get it to help out the arteries. Now, here are the benefits of drinking coffee daily. First, there's the heart health boost I was alluding to. 3 to 5 cups per day, 15% lower heart disease risk, shows the study. 15% lower. Diabetes, number 2. An extra cup per day over 4 years, 11% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Because of the impact that I just told you about the cycle of how it impacts your blood pressure, your heart rate, your blood sugar. Number 3, your liver. 2 or more cups per day leads to a 27% lower risk of liver fibrosis, 39% lower risk of cirrhosis, 40% lower risk of liver cancer. 2 or more cups a day. And 4 cups per day leads to up to 71% lower risk of death from liver disease. So the liver appreciates coffee. So does the immune system. Number 4, regular coffee drinkers, 18% lower cancer risk, shows the study. 18% overall. So it's a cancer fighter. Number 5, brain protection. We talked about that cycle that it puts you through. Drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day leads to up to a 65% lower risk of Alzheimer's. That one got me. How are we not talking about that study when it comes to one of the faster growing diseases in our older population, if not the fastest, 65% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. 3 cups a day could lower Parkinson's risk 24 to 32%. These are massive studies. Number 6, overall longevity. Harvard did a study with 200,000 people and showed the ones that drank 3 to 5 cups per day had a 15% lower risk of early death. Bottom line, your daily coffee isn't just keeping you awake, it's keeping you alive. So, what are the best ways to drink coffee and some of the best practices that we need to keep in mind? Because even if something has research like that, man can mess it up really quick. So, how much should you drink? 2 to 4 cups a day is the sweet spot. There's really not much of a need to go beyond that. You do still get the benefits of the antioxidants from decaf coffee as long as it's made as Swiss process, which is going to protect the grounds, the ingredients, the antioxidants. Instead of using a chemical to extract the caffeine, they use Swiss water, a pressured system, to remove the caffeine. Protects those nutrients. So you still get the benefits from a decaf. 2 to 4 cups a day is a sweet spot. You can take occasional breaks. You could take a weekday or a weekend off or 1 day a week or 1 day a month just to keep your body sensitive to the caffeine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's been times when I've done it. Sometimes there's kickback on it. I'll talk about that in a different video. How do we drink it? Black is always going to be best just in its purest form. By all means, skip the extra syrups and sugars and skip the processed creamers and anything that has an artificial sweetener. This means what's left is monk fruit, stevia. I use my collagen as my creamer. It's already sweetened with monk fruit, has a multivitamin in it. That just goes in and blends in nicely. I get to skip the dairy. You can use half and half cream. I would highly advise that it's organic and that it does not contain antibiotics and hormones. Should say that right on the side of the package. You can put a little bit of that in if you need to. The lighter the roast, the more caffeine, not the less. It's opposite what our brains would think. Darker roasts, the issue with them, I know some of you are dark roast lovers, there's nothing wrong with it, but they lose more of their potency during the roasting time, so it's a lower amount of caffeine, but they do lose those antioxidants. The longer it's cooked, you're cooking out more of the nutrients. So more medium to light is going to have a higher nutrient content. Nothing wrong with the dark, I'm just letting you know. When to drink it. This is the little known secret. Timing matters greatly. Wait 90 to 120 minutes after waking to let your cortisol level, your natural energy booster, settle down. A lot of you will ask me about checking your blood pressure, your blood sugar first thing in the morning. Your cortisol spikes real late in the morning, just before you get up. It knows your circadian rhythm, sun's starting to come up, I'm going to start cranking up for the day. Cortisol goes up to surge your energy. Allow your body to go through that cycle. I try to do my movement during that period of time. I want to get water in. 12 to 24 ounces is what I try to get in the morning. Could be lemon water if you wanted to. And I want to get some eye contact with sunlight. Whether you're looking out a window, you get outside, we want some vitamin D. We want God's alarm clock, the sun, to hit us. So you can time it that as you come off your cortisol energy boost in the morning, naturally you're already having that from waking up, getting going. 9 o'clock, 9:30, you add the coffee in, you'll get this continued energy level and adrenaline. Now, the reason to stop it before 11:30 is then your adrenaline is going to start to come back down, the caffeine is going to start to burn up, and you hit an afternoon cortisol spike. So there's another one in the early afternoon that begins to increase those energy levels. You can take advantage of that as well. So the caffeine is sandwiched in between your normal natural cortisol spike levels that are going to happen for your energy in the first place. Now, let's talk quality, because that's the second piece that can really mess with you having a big crash, getting jittery, or messing with your stomach. The best form of coffee is shade grown. Now, what this means, organic coffees are this, could say shade grown on the package. When they clear cut the field to put the coffee up, if you don't leave other trees around it, there's no place for birds to perch, to get the bugs, to keep the crop from getting eaten up. So then they have to use pesticides and herbicides. So shade grown says, oh, we didn't use those things and we allowed nature to do its thing. We allowed the birds to do that job. Non-GMO is ideal. And any coffee that I drink, I want to make sure it's lab tested for mold, these mycotoxins, obviously pesticides. Having some testing behind that or knowing the company that makes it is important to know, okay, this is solid. Now, there's different types of processing when it comes to coffee, of how you grab the fruit. You're going to peel the fruit off of the coffee bean itself. So you're peeling away the fruit. You can use chemicals, you can use washing methods. The type I prefer is the dry, natural, fermented process. What that does is it allows the sun to dry them out, and then you can peel the fruit away, but it ferments the beans, which helps to pop more of the nutrients and the antioxidants and the acids that are beneficial inside the coffee bean. Fewer mycotoxins that way, fewer pesticides, more antioxidants. That means less inflammation in the body. Then my favorite trick, creamers, we got to be careful with. Half and half is good. Stevia and monk fruit. Be very leery of syrups and sugar. No artificial sweeteners, nothing light. That's going to be sucralose. You can watch my video on why that's the #1 most dangerous health food out there that's added to so many health foods. So we're following those. The quality of the coffee bean, shade grown, tested, and then upgrade your cup. Add superfoods. You can add some incredible superfoods into your cup of coffee. I have 2 favorites. #1 is the #1 superfood in the world. It is also high in chlorogenic acid, which is really good for the arteries like we just talked about. It has 92 different nutrients, over 20 vitamins, 18 different amino acids, proteins, 46 antioxidants, and 36 compounds that support a healthy inflammatory response. What is it? Moringa. It's called the miracle tree, and for good reason. Moringa, if you were to grind it down and use it as a powder, would be very green tea-ish. It's not the most pleasing in just a regular cup. But adding this to coffee gives that cup of coffee a nutrient boost way beyond coffee by itself, an energy boost, an antioxidant boost. And so that's my favorite to put in the coffee. Unfortunately, it has a stronger flavor to it, and it would blend into your coffee and kind of be like, ooh, that doesn't taste right. So a tasteless form of it is what I used in my form of coffee. We actually created a fermented bean with a shade-grown coffee that is in that natural state. So it pops a lot of those nutrients and it's full of flavor. And we added a tasteless form of moringa to the beans and to the coffee grounds. So in the morning, I'm getting a cup of moringa and a cup of antioxidant coffee. It's great for the arteries and the energy every single day. That nice boost. My second favorite superfood to add on top of that is cinnamon. I'll put that over the top. So now I've got cinnamon supporting blood thinning efforts, blood sugar, and blood pressure, combined with the most powerful superfood on the planet, combined with the #1 source of antioxidants for most people, all in one cup. So you can see why I get excited about coffee, drinking it each day, the studies that are behind it, and the 15% decrease in overall mortality rate for those that do enjoy it. Enjoy it correctly. Don't make good coffee bad coffee. Invest in buying quality and making sure that's properly tested so you're not putting in chemicals trying to do something good for your body. If you want to learn about how coffee affects the body, then check out my other video coming up next where I explain both the pros and the cons of drinking it according to the science. And I get brutally honest about all the benefits and the drawbacks of drinking coffee, and I explain it in detail of who should and who shouldn't drink it. I'll include a link to that video here. Click to watch this video next, and I'll see you over there.